As Avenger lies trapped in the web of the great black widow, and that hideous spider crawls ever closer, he finds his mind drifting off to simpler times, moments before he was embroiled in such madness as led him to this place. How could things have got this bad? How did he come to this? Well, now we get a little insight into his past, and a time that led to all these events. A time before he was Ninja. I am Ninja. My parents are the heaven and the earth. My home is my body. My power is loyalty. My magic is training. My life and my death is breathing. My body is control. My eyes are the sun and the moon. My ears are sensitivity. My laws are self-protection. My strength is adaptability. My ambition is taking every opportunity with fullness. My friend is my mind. My enemy is carelessness. My protection is right action. My weapons are everything that exists. My strategy is one foot in front of the other. My trust is in quality. My way is the way of the tiger. Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more of The Way of the Tiger. However, as you may have noticed from the episode title, as Avenger lies wrapped in the Black Widow's web and she comes creeping ever so slowly closer and closer to him, he finds himself casting his mind back to simpler times, wondering, how did it all come to this? And he casts his way all the way back to an early training exercise before he had even achieved the rank of ninja. We have the first book, Ninja, by David Walters, and we will be playing that one tonight. Now, full disclosure, I've looked about maybe 5 or 6 sections into the book, until it came to major decisions, then I stopped. The Way of the Tiger, Book 0, Ninja, New Collector's Edition. Well, it's not that new now, and Megara Entertainment. Boo, the villains of the piece. Yeah. Lots of names, all useful. ISBN, very valuable. The same usual historical note we get about Ninja in the beginning. Grandmasters of the Way of the Tiger, absolutely, Balgin Stondrig, there I am. They didn't ask for my name, they just used my account name instead without checking. How not thorough of them. And we have a foreword by David Walters himself. A Scottish historical and fantasy novelist known for setting his work in Far Eastern lands, David Walters is currently working on his 8th book, the latest in his Samurai's Apprentice series. David is also part of the team designing the Orb role-playing game based on the Way of the Tiger game books. Now, sadly, the Orb role-playing game never came to fruition, or if it did, it was never published. All we, the public, got
was a splash page with an image on it, I think maybe a map, and a little bit of news saying it's coming soon, and then they never did anything with it. This was around the time that Megara Entertainment began to not fulfill its projects so well and started making more campaigns to pay to make the stuff from the previous ones and going rather downhill. Around the time when they sent us emails saying that as backers of some of their previous Kickstarter projects, they would like to invite us to invest in shares in their company for €5,000 a share to help keep them afloat and keep them in business. And here we have a photo of David Walters. Now, he's a Scottish author, but with a strong interest in Eastern Oriental settings. So let's presume he's highly cultured and widely travelled and doesn't necessarily have a very strong Scots accent. I mean, from the two photographs presented, he looks like he's from Eastern Scotland, more Edinburgh than Glasgow, quite possibly. And as such, he'd be likely to have a less marked accent. Now, I don't want to be highly stereotypical there. I mean, if we were going purely stereotypical, we'd say people from the east of Scotland would be far more likely to have read a book than people from the west of Scotland who might have run a book but wouldn't be that likely to read one. And also would be likely to greet you with a headbutt to the face, you know. So, I'm not going to do a Scots accent because he likes Oriental stuff so much, and trying to do an Englishman, trying to do an impression of a Scotsman, trying to do an impression of a Japanese or Chinese accent would just get awfully convoluted. So it'd be like, my first game book I ever read was Talisman of Death by Mark Smith and Jamie Thomson, which is set in the world of Orb. As I went on to read other game books, I found that they lacked the depth and flavour of Orb, and it wasn't until I read the Way of the Tiger series in the mid-80s that I was able to be a part of that world again. Back then, I didn't just want to play as Avenger, I wanted to be Avenger. Who would not want to be a ninja? A master of disguise and stealth with exceptional skills and almost superhuman fitness. How many of us wanted to ignore the guide at the start of a book that warned us about serious injury or death for an untrained user if they tried to copy the ninja moves for real? Yeah, I've got to be honest. Me and my mate who used to play the Way of the Tiger books together, we did try one of the moves once. And we set up, a load of duvets as a crash mat first, and we attempted one of the throws, and it was effective, but we're glad we set up a load of pillows and duvets and stuff to land on. And we didn't attempt it more than once. It was the... bear with me one moment. It was the Dragon's Tail throw. I would have been about 15, I think, and my friend would have been about 13. And we tried it, and yeah, we set up a whole load of padding, like every soft thing in the house we could drag in there for him to land on. And after successfully satisfying our curiosity, we decided not to try it again. The series was brilliant and enjoyable, but sadly over too soon, and there was also an almighty cliffhanger at the end of Book 6 which cried out to be resolved. The books left a gap with me that had to be filled, so in the absence of more books in the series, I came to the conclusion that I would have to write similar stories of my own. And so I did. I've written more than half a dozen novels, all with a strong Far Eastern link, all influenced by those formative years reading the Way of the Tiger series. Every so often I'd replay the Way of the Tiger series from scratch, wishing that the series could somehow be relaunched and expanded. If anything, the gods of time and fate seemed to be set against it, but with each passing year the Way of the Tiger game books faded a little more into history. I took to browsing online for any mention of the books, wishing for a return of Avenger, and Michael Spencer's wonderful encyclopedia of Orb was my only consolation. It was the rise of technology that largely killed the gamebook industry back in the 90s, but ironically, it was now a key vehicle for the resurgence of gamebooks through apps and through the collaboration of fans on social media. It really likes selecting text when I've got it on the hand, doesn't it? I mean, if I want to select text, go like that, select text, go the hand, boop, here we go, should be fine. Remember to click between paragraphs, not on them. It was online that I found that Megara Entertainment were looking to resurrect the series, and so I contacted the Megara founder, Michael Louis. That's a very strange spelling of Louis, but he's French, and it's more like Louis, and agreed to write for him on the Orb role-playing game. As part of the Megara group, I was privy to previously unseen background material about Orb from the original authors, and I was able to use that as further inspiration to add to the world, writing extensively about the Island of Plenty for the RPG campaign. I also got to interact with the rest of Megara's talented team, who were all fans of the series and had the same desire to bring it back. Following my work on the role-playing game, I was invited to write on the newly expanded gamebook series itself. Quite simply, a dream come true. Like Avenger in this prequel book, I was undertaking a trial with a considerable weight of expectation on me, and I had to prove my skills worthy. Like many fans of the original books, I'm hoping that this release of new Way of the Tiger books may lead to further adventures for Avenger. My excitement for the series remains stronger than ever. In this book, you will start with Avenger in the trial that defines the character for later books. Throughout this book, you will get to decide on what kind of Avenger you will be, and to explore in detail a part of Orb only experienced in passing in later books. This book also sets up much of what is to happen later in the series, and so shows the seeds, not sows the seeds, from which many later events happened. I hope, like me, you think it was worth the wait. Like everyone else, I can't wait to get to Book 7 and hopefully beyond. David Walters, Edinburgh, 2013. And there's a picture of him at a pub in Portobello called The Tide. Portobello Road is in London, isn't it? So that picture might not be in Edinburgh. Ah, it is Edinburgh and not Glasgow. I was right. Now, a can of Union Jack flag. I have no idea what that is. And some sort of laptop, notepad thing set up there, napkin. All right. Sorry. Sorry, I choked on saliva there. We have a map of the Island of the Island of Plenty, with a scale, which I have imported here into Map Tools so we can look at it as and when we need to. I believe this is the island from Book 2, with Shogun, I can't remember his name, I want to say something like Onimusha, but I don't think that's it. There's the port of Lemni, where we arrived originally. There's the port of Eiger, where we sailed towards the Island of Tranquil Dreams. And here, I think, is the region where we got to decide between rescuing a peasant girl and going to fight an enemy warlord and try and assassinate him. We rescued the peasant girl because there were a load of soldiers going to fight the enemy warlord, and the peasant girl had no one to save her, allegedly. We would have probably, it turns out, have been better off dealing with the enemy warlord, because some soldiers would rescue the peasant girl on the way back, apparently. But hey, our choice was made. Let us continue and see how this goes. Now, because this is a different author, I will be reading through the rules to see in case anything's changed. as opposed to other books in the series where I only read through significant changes to the rules. So here we have a character sheet. Combat ratings are all nothing, and I have obviously copied our current character sheet from the end of book 6 across. However, this is a version of Avenger who has not played books 1 to book 6, so all his punch, kick and throw modifiers are back to nothing. He no longer, well, he doesn't have Quan's Flail kick yet. He does not have a fate modifier, so we are now lucky on a 7+ instead of a 6+. Not a lot of room for skills. You'll notice the Spiderfish and Blood of Nil have an asterisk next to them. Endurance starts at 20. Inner Force starts at 3. We do not yet have 5 Inner Force points, so I will just remove the 5 and the 4. Put us back at full health. We do, however, have 5 Shuriken, apparently. Encounter boxes to track enemies. That's cool. And a background, which may be quite similar. Now, before going any further, I'd like to say this is a new author, but he's an old fan. So what I was going to say is, because this is a more modern book, it may cater to modern gaming tastes more than the older books did, which are more sort of old school. That being said, I don't mean a whole load of social commentary. I mean things to do with difficulty, hand-holding, save or die situations, you know, that kind of thing. The ratio of auto kills and non-auto kills, for example. However, he's a big fan of the series, loves the original books, and it is a tendency for some new game designers in their original initial projects sometimes, not all, to decide that their story is so good that the only way they can impress you with the quality of their story is to make the fights and the dice rolls really, really hard. If he was involved in writing book 7, I think he was. David Walters, Mark Smith, and Jamie Thomson. Yeah. So I think there's... I'm not sure how heavily Mark Smith and Jamie Thomson were involved in this. I think they handed over some parts of their old manuscripts for book 7. And David Walters worked it all together and finished it off. Maybe they were more heavily involved in that. I don't know, right? Perhaps their names are just listed here out of respect, but if so, why are they not listed? Oh, I've got book 1 open here for a reason. Why are they not listed for this one? So, beyond that, this is a prequel, right? This is a nice little, hey, look, here's like an aperitif, right? An opener. Something to enjoy before the main thing. If you've already enjoyed the main thing, hey, have a look back, see what might have happened before, right? It's something produced after the fact. Although, in terms of prequels, if we were to take the Chronicles of Narnia, The Magician's Nephew was actually published after Prince Caspian. No, it was published after Prince Caspian, but it was published after The Silver Chair, but before The Last Battle. So literally 5 books were published before the first one was kind of slotted in first. And you know what? It does actually benefit from coming after the others, because it ties into them and it combined into them in clever and interesting ways that wouldn't have been so easy to foreshadow if it was the first novel. So let's see how this one does. Because it is a new author, we don't know if he has different favourite directions, different ways of organising numbered sections, right? So I'm going to try not to get too hung up on those things and analysing it, because I don't know the patterns, alright? But what I have seen of Book 7, there are some incredibly deadly sections and very challenging fights that require very high dice rolls, and it seems David Walters may have been responsible for those. We don't know, so we'll find out through this book together. Also, I noticed that this background seems to include the death of Nagishi. I would almost have expected this to have occurred before the death of Nagishi, because this adventure apparently shows some of the seeds that will grow into things in later adventures, and having Yaemon, the Master of the Flame, appear as a monk, and not being heavily involved in his infiltration, but just being aware of it, but not having a chance to thwart or anything, because we just don't know, right? We don't know anything about what will come later on. It might have been nice to see a little bit of that, but not to be heavily involved. And I've removed my headphones because I honestly don't need them on. So, on the magical world of Orb, alone in a sea that the people of the Man March call endless, lies the mystical island of tranquil dreams. Many years have passed since the time when you first saw its golden shores and emerald rice meadows. A servant brought you, braving the distant leagues of the ponderous ocean, from lands to which you have never returned until Book 3. Your loyal servant... Was it Book 3 or 4? I think it's Book 3. Your loyal servant laid you, an orphan, at the steps of the Temple of the Rock, praying that the monks would care for you, for she was frail and dying of a hideous curse. Monks have lived on the island for centuries, dedicated to the worship of their god, Quan, he who speaks the holy words of power, supreme master of unarmed combat. They live only to help others resist the evil that infests the world. Seeing that you were alone and needed care, the monks took you in, and you became an acolyte at the Temple of the Rock. Nothing was made of the strange birthmark shaped like a crown which you carry on your thigh, though you remember that the old servant insisted that it was of mystical importance. Whenever you have asked about this, the monks have bade you meditate and be patient. The most ancient and powerful of them all, Nagishi, Grand Master of the Dawn, became your foster father. He gave you guidance and training in the calm goodness of Quan, knowledge of men and their ways, and how to meditate so that your mind floats free of your body and rides the winds in search of truth. From the age of 6, however, most of your time has been spent learning the way of the tiger. Now you are a ninja, a master of the martial arts, and a deadly assassin who can kill the most powerful enemies unseen and unsuspected. Like a tiger, you are strong, stealthy, agile, patient in the stalking of prey, and deadly. On the Island of Plenty and in the Man March, the fabled ninja known as the Men with No Shadow are held in awe. The mere mention of ninja strikes fear into people's hearts, but you are one of the few who worship Quan and follow the way of the tiger. You use your skill as a bringer of death to rid the world of evildoers. At an early age, you hung by your hands for hours on end from the branches of trees to strengthen your arms. You ran for miles, your light-footed speed enough to keep a 30-foot ribbon trailing above the ground. You trod tightropes as agile as a monkey. Now you swim like a fish and leap like a tiger. You move like the whisper of the breeze and glide through the blackest night like a shade. Before he died, Nagishi taught you the ninja's covenant, the ninja no chigiri. I will vanish into the night, change my body to wood or stone, sink into the earth and walk through walls and locked doors. I will be killed many times, yet will not die, change my face and become invisible, able to walk among men without being seen. It was after your foster father Najishi's death that you began to live the words of the covenant. A man came to the island, Yaemon, Grand Master of Flame. Using borrowed sorcery, he tricked the monks into believing that he was a worshipper of Quan from the greater continent. He was indeed a monk, but he worshipped Quan's twisted brother, Vile, who helps the powerful to subdue the weak, and wicked men to rule fools. Yaemon slew Najishi. No one could match him in unarmed combat, and he stole the scrolls of Ketsuin from the temple. That's already happened? That's already happened before this prequel? That's strange. Once more you knew the pain of loss, for you had loved Najishi as a father. You swore an oath to Quan that one day you would avenge his death. That day is not yet, but soon. Now the time of trial approaches, the time to prove yourself worthy of becoming a Grand Master at the Temple of the Rock. The Grand Master of the Five Winds has passed away peacefully, and you were selected to challenge for the honoured role along with 4 other initiates of the Inner Circle, the most talented followers of Quan. You have been taken by ship to the Island of Plenty, where you must journey from Lemne on its eastern coast to Eiger in the west within 5 days. I believe in Book 2, Eiger is described as the southern port. On your way, you are to surmount a challenge. All 5 cities on the east of the island are ruled by daimyo, who each have a single flag bearing the mons of their clan trimmed with gold. Your challenge is to capture 2 of these flags and then travel to your waiting ship in Eiger. You must do no evil on your journey, and must not take a flag from a pier. Any candidates who succeed will then be permitted to undertake the final test. The Grand Master of the Dawn also informed you before you departed that only 2 of the most trusted daimyo there have been told of your test, for it was a scant 13 years ago when the monks of Quan were driven from the island. Here we have an illustration of the port of Lemne by Lisa Rafali. Never heard of her. Yeah, it looks quite nice. It gives an impression of scale. It's large. It's great big huge walls with these tiny little people walking around them. We have a covered dock here. Maybe there's a lot of fishermen like to work on that one and don't like to be rained on or something. Or they store precious goods. There's a lot of boats, lots of boats, birds flying over. It gives a very peaceful feeling, but slightly edgy. It's got that rough, scratchy feeling you'd get in certain old oil paintings. Combat. As a master of taijutsu, the ninja's art of unarmed combat, you have 4 main ways of fighting. Throwing shuriken, see under skills, kicks, punches and throws. In general, it will be harder to hit an opponent when kicking, but a kick will do more damage than a punch. A throw, if successful, will allow you to follow up with a possible killing blow, but if you fail a throw, your defense against an opponent will be lower, as you are open to attack. Shuriken are a special case and will be mentioned in the text when you can use them. Whenever you are in combat, you will be asked which type of attack you wish to make. See the Way of the Tiger illustrations for the different types of kicks, punches and throws available to you. Think about your opponent and its likely fighting style. Trying to throw a giant enemy is not going to be as easy as throwing an ordinary man, for example. You'll be told which paragraph to turn to, depending on your choice. When you are resolving combat, you will find it useful to record your opponent's current endurance score. A number of encounter boxes are provided with your character sheet for this purpose, although in this case we'll just keep it in the text file. We should not have any of these items from the main series. Don't worry, I have a backup sheet from Book 6 in the Book 6 folder. Here's our Book 0 folder with a character sheet, map and book. There's our Book 6 sheet, and I will copy this character sheet over into the new book 7 character folder. And if we get anything special, any special modifiers or things that alter our skills from this prequel, then hey, we should have enjoyed them in the series so far, but we'll just add them on for book 7. As Avenger thinks back to an ancient training exercise of his that must seem so long ago now, all the way back to just before book 1, in fact. And recalls the benefits he may have gained. The combats have been presented in such a way that it is possible for you to briefly examine the rules and begin play almost immediately, but fighting is tactical. Do not forget the rules for blocking an inner force, see below, as you will rarely be told when to use these in the text. Punch. When you try to strike an enemy with a punch, that enemy will have a defense number. You need to score higher than this number on the roll of 2 dice, an attack roll. Because that is their defense, you need to get past their defense to hit them. That is how high you can roll and not land a blow. You get to add your punch modifier, see below, to this roll. If the score is higher than his or her defense number, you have punched your opponent successfully. In this case, roll 1 more die. The result is the amount of damage you have inflicted on your opponent. Every opponent has endurance or hit points. I don't recall any mention of hit points. Roll 1 die, result is the amount of damage you inflict on opponents. Yeah, see, so that's new, using familiar terminology people will know from other games. The damage you do is subtracted from your opponent's endurance total. If this has reduced your opponent's score to nothing or less, you have won. Punch modifier. Whenever you make an attack roll to determine... the fact it goes to a second line makes it seem like whenever you make an attack, roll to determine whether you have... Whenever you make an attack roll to determine whether or not you have successfully punched an opponent, add or subtract your punching modifier. This number reflects your skill in using the punches of the Way of the Tiger. Your starting punch modifier is 0, as noted on your character sheet. This may change during the adventure. The enemy's attack. After you punch, any opponent still in the fight will counterattack. You'll be given your defense number. Roll 2 dice, and if the score is greater than your defense, you have been hit. The amount of damage inflicted upon you depends on the opponent and will be noted in the text in a format such as damage, 1 die plus 1, or 2 dice, or 1 die plus 2. Simply roll the required number of dice and add any other number given. This is the total damage inflicted upon you. However, before you subtract this score from your endurance, you may choose to try and block or parry the attack. See below, to prevent any damage. Do we have a parry mechanic now? No, I think that's just narrative description. Kick. The kick and kick modifier work exactly as the punch, except that a kick will do 2 more points of damage than a punch. 1 die plus 2. It will often be harder to hit with a kick. That's not always the case, mind you. If the opponent survives, he or she will counterattack. Now we get to kicks here. We have no information that it will often be harder to hit with a kick. But we're going to get to throws here, and that's the reason why I kept book 1 open. The throw and throw modifier work as the punch to determine success. A throw does no damage to your foe. Instead, you will be allowed another attack, a punch or kick, with a +2 bonus to hit, like an extra punch modifier or kick modifier, and +2 to damage. All bonuses are cumulative. A kick normally does 1 die plus 2 damage, so after a successful throw it does 1 die plus 4. The opponent will only counterattack against a throw if you fail. Now here, if you're successful, you'll be allowed another attack, punch or kick, and it will be much easier to strike an opponent. There's no mention of a +2 bonus to hit. However, in the original series, if you successfully throw, they tell you you get a +2 to hit in that section, like you get a +2 on your next attack. and you're not allowed to throw again. I always remembered the +2 to hit after a throw. I didn't always remember the +2 damage after a throw. So I literally opened up the file for book 1 to check if it was there. I actually checked book 2 and book 1. It's like, yeah, it seems to be there. It seems to be consistent across the old series. So in the old series, the +2 to hit after a throw was hidden in the body of the text in every throw section. Here, it's just written at the beginning for us to remember. And I'll need to remember to do that because it won't tell me. You begin the game with 20 points of endurance. Keep a running total of your endurance on your character sheet. It will probably be the number that will change most as you are wounded, healed, and so on. When you reach no endurance points or less, you are dead and your adventure ends. When restoring endurance, you cannot go above your maximum of 20. And now we come to the block. As a ninja, a master of taijutsu, you have the ability to block or parry incoming blows with various parts of your body, often your forearms. For this purpose, thin, lightweight iron rods have been sewn into your sleeves, enabling you to block even swords and other weapons. During combat, if you have been hit, you may try to block the blow and take no damage. Roll 2 dice. If the score is less than your defense given in that combat, you have successfully blocked the blow and take no damage. If your score is equal to or greater than your defense, you take damage in the normal way. Essentially, you're forcing the enemy to reroll the attack with a +1 modifier. When they attack, they must roll over your defense. When you parry, they do not need to roll over your defense, they need to meet it or beat it. Meaning it is easier for them to hit when you attempt to block, but you are forcing them to reroll. And there are times when this will be worth considering. In any case, because you have taken the time to block, your next attack will be less effective, as your opponent has had more time to react. Whether your block is successful or not, -2 will be applied to your punch, kick and throw modifier for your next attack only. Remember, you can only block blows, not missiles or magic. There are a few instances where you can block missiles, but that is in the body of the text. It's not a standard thing. You begin this book with 3 points of inner force. Through meditation and rigorous training, you have mastered the ability to unleash spiritual or inner power through your body, in the same way as the karate experts of today break blocks of wood and bricks. In any combat, before you roll the dice to determine if you will hit or miss an opponent, you may choose to use inner force. If you do, deduct 1 point from your inner force score. This is used up whether or not you succeed in striking your opponent. Therefore, throwing your opponent before using inner force is highly advisable. If you are successful, however, double the damage you inflict. First, make your roll for damage and add any bonus, for example 1 die +2 for a kick. Then, double the result. That's 1 die +4 for a kick, doubled if you threw them first. When your inner force is reduced to nothing, you cannot use inner force again until you find some way to restore it, so use it wisely. While restoring inner force, you cannot go above your maximum of 3. This maximum changes to 5 at the beginning of the first book, so we're seeing our first serious change. Luck plays its part, and the goddess Fate has great power on the world of Orb. Whenever you are asked to make a fate roll, roll 2 dice, adding or subtracting your fate modifier. If the score is 7 to 12, you are lucky, and fate has smiled on you. If the score is 2 to 6, you are unlucky, and fate has turned her back on you. You begin your adventure with a fate modifier of nothing. Later on, this might go up or down as you are blessed or cursed by fate. Now, my initial gut feeling is there should be absolutely no punch, kick, throw, or fate modifier increases in this book, because we didn't have them at the start of book 1. However, if this is a nice little bonus that makes your playthrough of the main series easier, then a few little modifiers could be snuck in as character improvements. Additionally, we're missing 2 points of inner force. We may definitely get those over the course of the adventure. And we come to the ninja tools. As well as any equipment you may take depending on your skills, as a ninja you have certain tools with you from the beginning. These are the ninja costume. During the day you would normally be disguised as a traveller, beggar or such like. At night, when on a mission, you would wear costume. This consists of a few pieces of black cloth. One piece is worn as a jacket covering the chest and arms. 2 others are wound around each leg and held in at the waist. Finally, a long piece of cloth is wrapped around the head, leaving only the eyes exposed. The reverse side of the costume can be white for travel on snowy ground, or green for travel in woods or grasslands. Iron sleeves. Sewn into the sleeves of your costume are 4 thin strips of iron, the length of your forearm. These allow you to parry or block blows from swords and other cutting weapons. I've always been of the opinion that it's 4 thin strips on each forearm, not just 2 thin strips on each forearm for a total of 4. And that they're practically rods, like the sort of thing you'd see for a radio area or something, very, very thin. And spaced out so that it's hard for anything to get between them. And they are inside, in between layers, not on the outside of the sleeve visible. A breathing tube. Made from bamboo, this can be used as a snorkel, allowing you to remain underwater for long periods of time. It can also be used as a blowpipe in conjunction with the poison needle skills for added range. There's also a garrote, also known as a cheese wire. A specialized killing tool for a ninja. This is a length of wire used to assassinate enemies by strangulation. Flash powder. This powder, when thrown in any source of flame, causes a blinding flash. You have enough for one use only. If we get to keep our flash powder at the end of the adventure, we've still used it up, so it'll still be gone when we get to book 7. Spiderfish and the blood of Nil. These pieces of equipment will become available as you play the Way of the Tiger. They have a place on your character sheet, but you may not use them at the start. We do not have these. There we go. And there we have a picture of a ninja in white sneaking in some snowy mountains, or rather standing, with very red skin. The skills of the Way of the Tiger. You have been trained in ninjutsu almost all of your life. Your sense of smell, sight, and hearing have been honed to almost superhuman effectiveness. Therefore, I am obviously not a ninja because I have no sense of smell. In fact, when I was a student, I sat in the kitchen, in a student kitchen, for an hour and a half reading a book. I started to get a bit of a headache, and one of the other students came in and asked if I could smell gas. And I said no. And they checked around, and someone had left the gas oven on in the kitchen, and I hadn't noticed because I couldn't smell it. I am grateful that they came in and turned it off, and we opened the window and let a load of cold air in, and helped, get the gas out of there. If I'd stayed in there, I don't know how long I would have stayed in there to suffer some serious damage, but, I'm grateful that my guardian angels must have been looking after me that evening. You are well versed in woodcraft, able to track like a bloodhound and to cover your own tracks. Your knowledge of plants and herb lore enables you to live off the land. You are at the peak of physical fitness, able to run up to 50 miles a day and swim like a fish. Your training included horsemanship, a little ventriloquism, meditation, the ability to hold yourself absolutely still for hours on end, perfecting your balance, and the 7 ways of going, or disguise. The latter skill involves comprehensive training so that you can perform as a minstrel, for instance, if this disguise is used. However, a major part of this training has been stealth, hiding in shadows, moving silently, and breathing as quietly as possible, enabling you to move about unseen and unheard. You begin the game with these skills. There are 9 other skills. One of these, Shuriken Jutsu, is always taught to a ninja in training. This you must take, but you may then choose 3 other skills from the remaining 8 and note them on your character sheet. Shuriken Jutsu. You begin the adventure with 5 shuriken. The type you specialise in are throwing stars, small razor-sharp star-shaped discs of metal. You can throw these up to a range of about 30 feet with devastating effect. If you throw a shuriken, you'll be given a defense number for your target. Roll 2 dice, and if the score is higher than the defense number, you will have hit your target. The text will describe the damage done. You may find yourself in a position where you were unable to retrieve a shuriken once you have thrown it. Keep a running total in the box provided on your character sheet, crossing off a shuriken each time you lose one. If you have none left, you can no longer use this skill. You are free to carry as many as you find in your adventures. And when I was 13 years old at school, 14 years old at school, some of the school bullies in my class showed off a ninja star that had been crafted for them out of a bicycle cog. And it wasn't just the round bicycle cog, it had been cut down into a proper cross-shaped section, sharp along all the edges, very sharp points. And then, this was in the classroom, this wasn't in the playground, right? They spoke about it during break time. Later on, when the teacher left the classroom, they got it out and, showed it to each other, and then they put it away before the teacher came back. The next time the teacher left the classroom, they pinned me up against the wall and threatened to slit my throat with it. And it was only the teacher coming into the classroom and catching them in the act of holding this blade up against my throat. I don't know what would have happened if that teacher had not come back, but apparently they told my father that the children had a pair of scissors against my throat and were threatening to cut my hair. They were threatening to cut my throat with a sharp-bladed implement. And there wasn't much I could do about the situation because there was about 4 of them holding me down, Yes, I was about 4 inches taller than any of the boys in the class because I was very tall. When I was 12 years old, I was 5'4", and my teenage growth spurt was 4 inches. Literally, I only had one teenage growth spurt, and it was a hand span. It was like I did not go up very far at all. I was a tall kid, not so tall as a grown up. It's all fine. And it was only then that after about 7 or 8 years of horrible bullying, that the school actually took the matter seriously, and the fact that I'd been constantly reporting that bullies had been beating me up and calling me bad names and doing horrible things. And the teachers had always said, if a bully bullies you, come and tell us. And I'd come and tell the teacher, and the teacher would say, stop telling tales. I was like, you bastard. You were supposed to take this seriously. What's the point of coming and reporting it if you... Yeah. Now, that ninja star was confiscated, as far as I'm aware. I don't know what happened. And I'm not sure. They still continued to bully me for the next few years, actually. It was quite horrible. They eased off eventually when I worked out that every single time I'd been in a fight at school and lost, it had been at least 6 people beating the crap out of me. And every time I'd been in single combat, I'd won. Any one-on-one fight, I never lost. And there were never less than 6 people fighting me, unless I got someone alone. Occasionally they'd come pick on me on their own and regret it. And when I worked out, hey, I've won every single combat I've had in the last 7 or 8 years here, I went headhunting. I was like, there's never been less than 6 of them fighting me unless it was just one person. And whenever it was one person, I always won. Which means any of those times I've been fighting 6 people, I can have one of those 6. I just need to get them on their own. So I went headhunting. And after I'd taken out 3 or 4 bullies, the teachers just let me get on with it. And the bullies got out of my way and never gave any trouble ever again. They did start picking on one of the other lads in my class, and honestly, I should have stood up for him a bit, but I was just grateful that after the last 8 or 9 years, they weren't picking on me for once. So I just kind of kept my head down a bit and didn't help him out. I should have helped him out a bit. They didn't pick on him that much, and what they did to him was nowhere near as nasty as the things they'd done to me before. No, seriously, what they did to him was like sod all compared to what I had to go through. They'd call him a few names, and in the morning occasionally say it's time for your daily morning beating and give him a little bit of physical abuse, as opposed to with me it would be insults, swear words, constant sniping remarks, multiple times a minute throughout all the lessons whenever they thought the teacher wasn't paying attention. And often, if the teacher was paying attention, they just didn't give a toss and would do it anyway. Constant barrage of swear words. And tell you what, if someone calls you a cunt, you just call them a cunt right back. You get used to it, right? Why do I swear so much? Well, apart from the fact my father's from East London, and I'm from sort of northeast London originally, the fact that I went to a rough school, and if someone hits you, you hit them back. Someone hits you verbally, you hit them back verbally. It just became a defense mechanism to fight back against these arseholes, Why was I bullied? Let's see. I was tall, intelligent, with curly hair, from a poor family in a fee-paying school, possibly the only child in the school who was actually taken on for free because the teachers said I embodied the kind of person they wanted to have in the school that much. My brother and sister didn't get to go for free, but I did. And, worst of all, I had apparently committed the dreadful sin of actually being interested in the subject matters the teachers were trying to drum into our heads, and paying attention during classes. Was I teacher's pet? No, not exactly. One or two of the bullies were. I was kind of like second place teacher's pet occasionally. And the thing is, because it was a fee-paying school, when the kids would be absolute arseholes to me, the teachers would often let them get away with it, because honestly, if they punished those kids and were nasty to them, those kids' parents would take them away and stop paying fees to the school. And yeah, it was a Steiner school. They didn't have massive amounts of money anyway. They were kind of struggling to get by. It was so corrupt, and they still have a massive bullying problem there now, apparently. All these years later, which is a real shame. I was in the last class 9 and the last class 10 of that school. They decided when I was in class 9 that they were only going to go up to class 8. So when we went up to class 10, the class 8 below us did not go up to class 9. They went off to other schools in the local area. And now I believe they only go up to class 6, so they don't even have the upper school at all. They just stop at... class 6 is what, 12, 13 years old? And the worst part is, my birthday was always in the first few days of term after the summer holidays, so I'd come back. Only once was my birthday in the summer holidays. Every other year, it was not in the summer holidays. So, my birthday every year was ruined by the knowledge that I would have to go back to school and would be at school on my birthday. And the few days before my birthday would be absolute hell, as would my birthday, because everyone at school would be absolutely horrible to me. It was not nice. Anyway, Ninja Star backstory aside, arrow cutting. Requiring excellent muscular coordination, hand and eye judgment and reflexes, this skill will enable you to knock aside or even catch missiles such as arrows or spears, remembering that you may not block blocking. Remember, you can only block blows, not missiles or magic, unless you have the skill of arrow cutting, which will allow you to block or deflect them. Acrobatics, the ability to leap and jump using flips, cartwheels, etc., like a tumbler or gymnast. Immunity to poisons. This involves taking small doses of virulent poisons over long periods of time, slowly building up the body's resistance. This enables you to survive most poison attempts. Feigning death. Requiring long and arduous training, a ninja with this ability is able to slow down heart rate and metabolism through willpower alone, thus appearing to be dead. Escapology. A ninja with this skill is able to dislocate the joints of the body to maximize the body's suppleness, allowing movements through small spaces and escape from bonds and chains by slipping out of them. Poisoned needles. Sometimes known as spitting needles, with this skill you can place small darts coated with a powerful poison that acts in the bloodstream onto your tongue. By curling the tongue into an O shape and spitting or blowing the dart can be propelled up to an effective range of about 15 feet. You'd have to be a fucking expert. I mean, yeah, around the same time me and my mate tried the leg sweep throw, we did try this with, you know, those little earbuds that you're supposed to use, that you're supposed to never stick in your ear, but that's what they're made for, and that's what loads of, virtually everyone uses them for. We used like a few of those. Yeah, we got about 7 or 8 feet at most, A useful surprise attack, the source of which is not always perceptible. Ah! How did he get me from there? What? He didn't even move his arms or what? It's like, yeah, it came out of his face, through the cloth wrapped over his mouth. You start this book with no poison. You will not be able to use this skill until you acquire some. So we may gain it during this mission. Picking locks, detecting and disarming traps. Yeah, all one skill. The ability to open locked doors, chests and so on. With this skill, you could carry various lockpicks in the pockets of your costume, including a small crowbar or jemmy. You're also trained to notice traps and to use the lockpicking tools to disarm them. Climbing. Comprehensive training in the use of your grappling hook and hand and foot clamps, or cat's claws. The padded 4-pronged hook has a... Had to stay up a bit extra late before starting because of the washing machine. And the clocks went back the other night, so it's later than it seems on screen. The padded 4-pronged hook has 40 feet of rope attached to it, used to hook over walls, niches, etc., allowing you to pull yourself up the rope. The cat's claws are spiked clamps worn over the palm of the hands and the instep of the feet, enabling you to embed your claws into a wall and climb straight up like a fly, and even to crawl across ceilings. With these skills and weapons at your disposal, you are now a ninja warrior. Your character sheet will persist as you play the books of the Way of the Tiger, and your abilities may even expand. It is important that you have filled in your character sheet completely. You start with 4 skills, 3 of your choosing, 5 shuriken, 20 endurance, and 3 points of inner force. You are ready to take the first step in the Way of the Tiger. Turn to section 1, and here we have an updated version of the illustration of the moves. It's finally not the original sketch that Jamie Thomson sent into the publishers and said, get an artist to do a decent version of this and put that in the front of the books, and they just put in the sketch he sent them. So, for our skill selection, we got Shinren in book 3, at the beginning of book 3. We got climbing at the beginning of book 2. We started book 1 with shuriken jutsu, arrow cutting, immunity to poisons, and picking locks and disarming traps. For continuity's sake, I will leave those exactly there, and not take any other skills. I will say, immunity to poisons, we haven't had to use it very often in the series, but the handful of times we have had to use it, it has been an absolute lifesaver, and we would have really struggled without it. The acrobatic skill gets used a lot. The art of feigning death, I can think of 1 or 2 times when it fails and the enemy continues to kill you anyway, because it's like a crushing attack or a burning attack or something, and they just continue with their natural attack to destroy you, because they don't care, they're just destroying the body. I'm not sure I can remember a single time when it is successful. I'm pretty sure there is at least one time when it's successful in the early books, but I can't remember off the top of my head if there's any times when it's very useful. Escapology, I'm not sure I've seen calls for that. Oh wait, I think in book 6 there's a point where you can be captured by orcs and tied up in their prison. Spitting poison needles, useful, but I've never... it comes up often enough, but I've never used it. Climbing, again, very useful. Very hard to get past the beginning of book 2 without the climbing skill. Let's put it that way. It's not impossible, but if you want to stand a decent chance of making it through the beginning of book 2, you want arrow cutting and climbing. Picking locks, detecting and disarming traps has probably been the single most useful skill in the entire series, so I'm happy to stay with that. Let's now move on to section 1. Given the time we started, I'm not sure how far we're going to get into the book today. I did feel it important to read through the rules because I wanted to check for differences. And I'm glad I caught the +2 damage on attacks after a throw, because I might have completely forgotten about that. So that was a very nice reminder. Also, having the +2 to hit after a throw written into the combat section instead of into the combat sections themselves helps cut down the page count, but also it helps lock it in as a rule to remember. Because in the original books it's not mentioned until you get to a fight, and then you're like, oh, there's a new extra rule here. Your small ship, the Catechism, sails into Lemne's harbour, the sprawling city lit by the soft glow of thousands of night lamps. The vessel is manned by fishermen from the island of tranquil dreams, their work punctuated by the creak of timber and the splash of waves against the hull. You and 4 other initiates of the inner circle are assembled above deck. You are the youngest ever selected to begin the time of trial, and you vow to succeed to honour the memory of your late father, Naijishi. Aiko is the first of your rivals for the title of Grand Master. Like you, she wears a black ninja costume, and she kneels nearby, rechecking her equipment. Your other competitors are all shaven-headed monks of Quan. First is the towering Gorobe, who stretches against the mast as if he could push it over. He is your main rival, having nearly succeeded at this trial once before. In fact, he should absolutely be our main rival, because at the beginning of book 1, we have to fight him for the title. With Gorobe, he is a massive mountain of muscle. And there's his name even there, right in section 1, before we fight him to prove our skill. Next is, now I'm English, so I would say Daon, although this is Eastern, so Daon. It's probably Daon, who leans against the wooden rail, staring out across the dark sea. He fled the island as a boy, his temple incinerated during the Black Lotus Rebellion. Last is the eldest competitor, Shigeru, a slight figure who has cultivated his spiritual power under a Grand Master in the mountains of the mainland. He sits cross-legged on a coil of rope, meditating. Your ship moors alongside a merchant ship. You spot a young woman dressed in a startling kimono of rich cloth and bedecked in jewellery. Her waist is wrapped in multiple sashes along with a golden belt, and her hair is tied up around ivory horns. She is flanked by 2 samurai in white lacquered armour. Gorobe heads down the gangplank, which groans under his weight, and you all follow. Gorobe, she says softly, I am most pleased to see you again. For the rest of you, welcome. My name is Singing Wind. Gorobe bows. I am surprised to see you here, my lady. The last time the test was set by your husband. A look of pain passes across her. My husband has been assassinated. My troubles outweigh any test I was to have set you. The bandit leader Mutari has since slain my guards and seized my home, taking my husband's falcon katana to claim dominion of Lemne. My remaining samurai are away escorting my husband's body to his family estate, and so I beseech you for help. Gorobe eagerly volunteers to help, as do Daon and Aiko. What of the flag we were to compete for? Shigeru asks. Whosoever wrests the falcon katana from Mutari's corpse will earn my flag. Shigeru says that a spear does not become sharper the more steel you put in its tip. Singing Wind already has several champions for her cause. Instead, he declares that he will hasten to Nara to capture another flag. Nara being this way, down to the south. We could agree to help Singing Wind and work alongside the others. We could seize a head start, leaving Lemne along the northern road to the castle at Suma. We could follow Shigeru's route, leaving Lemne along the southern road to the ancient city of Nara. Now, if we go south to Nara with Shigeru, we are in direct competition with him. He's clearly focused on the competition and wants to get his 2 flags quick and early. If he travels alone, well, no, if we travel with him, theoretically we will both be a bit safer. Although he might be too competitive, we are not allowed to harm our fellow competitors. We got to play fair. This is a friendly training exercise, right? If we just assume he's going to get the southern flag at Nara, and we want to head north to Suma to gain the flag up there, while our companions are busy here in Lemne, that means we each get a flag and we get a head start moving on, presuming we can get the flag on our own. Additionally, if we don't go to Nara, he may fail to obtain that flag. We don't know how genuine his confidence is, right? He may be impatient. Now, in theory, a single ninja could sneak in and assassinate Mutari. However, as we have learned from the original 6 books of the series, Quan does wish us to be a good, heroic individual who rids the world of evildoers. Now, if we go to help Singing Wind with Gorobe, Daon, and Aiko, we are making it more likely that her husband's death is avenged. And furthermore, any one of us 3 could obtain the flag. We're not getting an unfair head start when we do this. Only Shigeru is gaining an unfair head start, and as Gorobe is our main competitor and should be the one who also gets 2 flags, then do we need to make a choice to hasten on to Suma to gain a flag so that Shigeru doesn't get 2 or 3 of the flags for himself? I mean, there's 5 of us, right? So in order to get 2 flags, is the intended end that we get 2 flags, Gorobe gets 2 flags, and then we fight it out at the beginning of book 1? If we only get 2 flags, or if he gets 2, why do we fight? Is it... interesting. It's possible that any one of us could get injured. But it feels like this is the heroic thing to do, the virtuous thing to do, and, much more importantly, there are 5 flags on the island, right? So, let's say Lemne, Suma, Nasaka, Takahiri, and Nara are the locations of the flags. However, we do not know where these flags are. There's the local ruler of each place apparently has the flag and will give it to us after we achieve, after we do something for them. We know that Singing Wind has promised to give us her flag. She knows where it is, she has it, she can give it to us, right? Meaning, we don't need to go looking for it. It's not a mystery where it is. It's straightforward. And the fact that all 3 of us are going here if we were to go to Suma or Nara, one of the three behind us could have the flag before we've even had a chance to gain one. So getting one here at the beginning early, or trying to, should make it easy to get two more. Or easier to get two more. Whereas Shigeru, he's probably going for Nara and Takahiri and leaving the other three flags to the rest of us, because he's thinking the four of us can't get three flags. We can't get a flag each, and how are we even going to get two, right? And if one person gets two flags, at least one person gets none. Let's agree to help Singing Wind and work alongside the others, because it is the honourable thing to do. Also, it's a known quantity. We know where the flag is. We've been promised it, and it shall hopefully be ours, or one of our companions. And if so, hey, good for them, You agree to help Singing Wind, who bows, expressing her deep sense of gratitude. You follow her and her two samurai along the dock. She steps into a waiting purple palanquin bearing the mons of a black moon. Two burly servants dressed in white lift the palanquin and begin forward along a wide white paved road, her samurai falling into line alongside. Normally with a palanquin, you'd have servants on the left and right. Two burly servants, so that's one at front, one at the front, one at the back, so they've got both handles on their shoulders, meaning it's a somewhat smaller palanquin, but also they're very strong, and she's also probably quite light. You, Aiko, Daon, and Gorobe accompany them along the streets, which are deserted at this time of night, lit only by hanging lanterns. Aiko points out a building which resembles a temple of Quan. "It used to be," Gorobe says, "but ever since our brethren were driven from the island, it is now simply a cargo store." Daon mutters the pilgrim's curse under his breath. You recognize that you are near the city market district. You have been to Lemne and the surrounding area twice before, always on covert missions to help the downtrodden, and your only other time spent on the island has been around Eiger. You pass by closed shops and empty carts, ahead of the famed 7 hills of Lemne, on the highest of which is perched an impressive complex protected by a white stone wall. Singing Wind emerges from the palanquin. My maidservant has informed me that there is a group of Ronin up the hill securing the main entrance to my residence. I must ask you to overcome them so that I can gain access to my rightful home. You share a gaze with Aiko, a plan forming instantly based on deception. Aiko enters the palanquin with Gorobe and Daon changing into the clothes of the palanquin bearers. Lastly, you cling to the underside of the palanquin and hang on, ready to roll out when the moment is right. Singing Wind stays back with her palanquin bearers, although she sends her 2 samurai along with you. Because, number 1, she wants us to succeed, and number 2, it would look highly suspicious for her palanquin to be arriving without her samurai bodyguards in attendance. She doesn't want to break the deception. Daon puffs a little as the palanquin is carried uphill. However, Gorobe does not seem to show even the slightest strain of exertion. From your upside-down position, you can see that the way ahead is barred by a set of locked iron gates which are guarded by half a dozen of the mercenary samurai. Aiko calls out through the Ronin from inside the palanquin, her voice a perfect imitation of Singing Wind. I am the rightful heir to Lemne, and I will not be denied entry to my home. 2 of the Ronin draw their katana and approach the palanquin. Suddenly, Aiko bursts out with a leaping tiger kick into the face of the nearest enemy. You drop from the palanquin and roll aside as Gorobe and Daon abandon it to join the fight alongside Singing Wind's samurai. There is one Ronin not engaged by anyone who is trying to work his way round to attack Aiko from the blind side. We could join the attack against the unengaged Ronin. Use the distraction to slip over the wall into Singing Wind's residence, trying to be the first to find Mutari and claim the prize. This is as far as I've looked in the past, okay? Now, reminder, Quan likes us to be honourable. If we try to sneak in and steal the flag ourselves, it may not end well for us. It may be better if we all go in together. Now, of course, this sentence here is designed to make you think, but if I don't go in first, one of the other two might get it. And yeah, they absolutely might. But Aiko's going to get murdered if this chap doesn't get stopped. And we are all, servants of the god. Of course I'm going to help her. I will join the attack against the unengaged Ronin. This may be our first fight. To your left, Gorobei grabs an onrushing Ronin and pins his arms in a bear hug, drawing upon his inner chi to squeeze the life from him despite his armour. Daon and Aiko are busy in combat against two others. The nearby Ronin turns at your approach with his katana drawn. Will you use a winged horse kick, a cobra strike punch, or a whirlpool throw? You know what? He is a trained opponent, but he's only a Ronin. He's not a samurai with a master, so he'll have somewhat less training. And he may not be that used to a ninja. The whirlpool throw is a basic Aikido throw, and he does have a sword. So the sword will be out here. We just stand in front of him and step offline when he attacks. Sure, I'm going to try the throw and hope this isn't another one of those gotcha sections for trying to throw and be like, haha, you idiot, you thought you were going to do the thing that you're allowed to do. With amazing speed, you turn and grab his extended weapon arm, intending to use his own momentum against him in a whirlpool throw. The Ronin guard? They're guarding the but hang on, this is dodgy. Defense against a whirlpool throw is 5. An endurance of 11. And his damage is 1 die plus 1. Okay, so we don't have any of these clues or other things, so let's just remove all of this. So, his defense is 5. We're gonna pull up the dice roller and roll 2 dice. An 8. It's higher than a 5. If you've thrown the Ronin successfully, you may either use the winged horse kick or the cobra strike punch. We will use the cobra strike punch, adding 2 to your kick or punch modifier and damage for this attack only as he struggles to get to his feet. Because this is the first time in the adventure that this has been written, the first time we've got into combat, first time we've had an opportunity to attempt a throw, so this is probably to help us learn in case we'd skipped through the combat rules earlier. I'm going to go for the punch because we've been informed by this author that kicking is a little bit harder sometimes, and we have no punch or kick modifiers. With almost superhuman speed, you try to flick aside his sword whilst delivering a cobra strike aimed at the gap in his neck armour. The Ronin guard has a defense of 5 against the cobra strike as well. Excellent. And we have a +2 modifier because he's regaining his footing. A 4. That's not ideal. That fails. We have not defeated the guard. The Ronin is momentarily off balance by you knocking his katana blade wide, but he quickly recovers to slash at you. Your defense against this is 7. We will remove the +2 modifier, and he rolls a 4. Not great. If he's still alive, we'll throw again, because it worked so well last time. It's just for follow-up that didn't quite work. We'll try another throw. That's him on the ground. We'll go for the punch again. A little predictive, but we'll go for a throw and a kick next time, just to vary it up. Lull him into a false sense of security where he thinks he knows what we're doing. So we'll go for our second punch attempt. Should have included the +2 because we threw him, so that 6 is an 8, which is still successful. And because we punched him, 3 points, which is it's the lowest we could have got. He's still alive, so he attacks us. Our defense is 7. He rolls a 4, doesn't get us at all. We're going to try a throw, then a kick. We know what his defense against the throw is, and that is successful. So, because it's the same as the punch. We'll go for the winged horse kick as he gets up, kick him in the guts, then boof boof up into his face. Yeah, go for it. You launch yourself into a winged horse kick, aiming your heel at the gap in his armour between his neck and chin. His defence against the kick is a 6, but we threw him, so we get a +2. 6 + 2 is 8. Gets over the 6, a successful kick. So now we're going to do 1 die +4 damage for a kick. Rolled a 2 for damage this time, just like we rolled 1 last time, so that's 6 damage. He is still standing. He counterattacks by slashing you with a katana. Our defense against this is also a 7. So, hey. This time he got us. 7 is kind of middling. I will try to block. He still got us. Okay, fair enough. He deals 3 damage. Well, I'm glad our enemy can roll low for damage, as can we. In which case, I'm not going to try for a throw. I'm going straight for a punch, because we know his defense against a punch is only a 5, and we may be able to drop him quickly with a single attack. Double 1. Tragic. He counterattacks against us. Our defense is 7. Oh, look, he gets an 11. Okay, let's try and block. I didn't give our -2 for blocking there, did I? Okay, so we'll roll again. A 7. Okay, so he gets a hit in. Game's going to hate me tonight, apparently. 2 damage. We will happily take 2 damage. Then we'll just try for a punch again. Got him. And 2 damage, meaning he has 1 bloody injury. No endurance points left. Excellent. Whew. We have defeated the guard indeed. And why is he called a guard? Oh, he's a guard for the Ronin force, not a guard. Calling him a guard feels like this is their rightful property, but he's more like a lookout, you know, to guard the bandits in the place from people coming to get them. The Ronin collapses, his katana clattering to the paved road in it from his lifeless hand. You look around to see Gorobei pin a second opponent to the ground and deliver a shattering punch that ends all resistance. All the other Ronin are dead or incapacitated. Singing Wind herself rushes up with the palanquin bearers and crouches over a loyal samurai who has fallen in the struggle. She murmurs a blessing in the name of Illustra, goddess of life, staunching the bleeding and saving the man's life. Mutari will be sleeping in my quarters at this late hour, Singing Wind says to your group, collecting the gate key from one of the bodies and opening the gate. The direct route there will be guarded and contains some countermeasures to ninja infiltration. My husband created them when he was told he may be assassinated. Little good it did him. I know of a secret passage that will bypass the defences, though only one of you can use it. She commands the palanquin bearers to remove the bodies and the uninjured samurai to keep watch over the other. Then she leads the way on across the grass. We can follow Singing Wind and the others to the secret tunnel, or slip on off on our own and risk the ninja countermeasure to be the first to Mutari's quarters. We're injured. It's probably best if we don't take the risky approach. And if only one of us can use the secret tunnel, there's going to have to be a way of deciding whom. Gorobei is probably too big to fit in there. Let's stick with the others for now. Because the greedy traps trying to tempt us to take extra risks do not feel worthy just yet. The calls of cicadas sound all around you as you follow Singing Wind to a stone water basin beside an ornamental pond where carpfish are little more than dark shapes flitting underneath the moonlight. What a long sentence. She lifts a bit of turf to reveal a small brass trapdoor which she unlocks with a key. The passage is carved into the stone but is only big enough to crawl through. Even Gorobei should just be able to fit through, although he looks a little apprehensive at the prospect. This leads directly to my sleeping chamber, not cheaping chamber, she says, where Mutari surely is. What if this is all a trap? What if she's set this up? Because it feels almost like she knows too much. I mean, she lives here. It's her home. She should know. But it feels a little bit too convenient. The floor around the centre of the room is set to make a noise when anyone walks over it, and he will stay there as it affords him some warning of the approach of any assassin. Only one of you can go through this tunnel in case you need to fall back quickly, because it would be blocked by anyone behind us, blocking our retreat. My training will grant me the edge in single combat against Mutari, Daon says. The skills of the ninja will give no benefit here. No, Aiko replies. Now that I know about the floor, I can find another way to assassinate him, as only a ninja can. Sounds like she has acrobatics or climbing. Although keen to be the one to face Mutari, you keep your own counsel, satisfied that Aiko has made the case for you both. Gorobei says nothing. Singing Wind considers for a moment. I can think of only one way to decide. We must draw lots. She takes 4 white bamboo pins from her hair and hides them behind her back, breaking one of them. She then covers the bottom of them with her fists as she holds them out to the 4 of you. Whoever draws the short one will be allowed to enter the tunnel. Let's make a fate roll. Great. We get a 5. Fate does not smile upon us. So one of the others probably gets to go. If we're unlucky and we get to go, then that's enough of a warning. Now, in the Usborne Book of Spies, or Usborne Book of, not the Usborne Book of Detectives. Was it the Usborne Book of Detectives or Usborne Book of Spies? I think the Usborne Book of Detectives, a children's book. It says, if you think someone's going to sneak into your bedroom while you're sleeping, through a window or through a door, put cornflakes on the floor underneath the window or in front of the door. Because if they come through and step on those, you're going to bloody hear it, and it's got a good chance of waking you up. So this idea of the floor being designed to make noise if someone steps on it is, not entirely alien to me. You take a bamboo hairpin, but it is a long one. You try not to show any emotion, but cannot help but sadly curse your luck and regret that you did not strike out on your own to try to claim the prize. Fate is with Gorobei, who draws the short pin with a chuckle. After you all wish him luck, he takes several deep breaths and squeezes himself into the tunnel. You all wait anxiously. Singing Wind intones a quiet prayer to Illustra. Aiko paces restlessly whilst Daon sits cross-legged and goes into a light meditation. You hear the sound of a gong being struck from somewhere in the central buildings and cries of alarm. Daon opens his eyes and stands. Should we see if we can help? Aiko says. Singing Wind shakes her head. It is either too late for Gorobei or he has succeeded. Without Mutari, this Ronin will scatter. When my samurai return from my husband's estate, there will be no one to lead any resistance against them. There is a scuffling sound of someone approaching in the tunnel, and everyone tenses until Gorobei emerges with a toothy grin. He has a painful-looking katana slash across his chest, but he bears it stoically. In his meaty left hand is the sheathed falcon katana, which he lays reverently at the feet of Singing Wind and bows. Mutari is dead, he says. Soon Lemne will be under its rightful stewardship once more. And you know what? He's an old friend of hers. He deserves this one. Singing Wind touches him lightly on the shoulder and bids him to rise. She reaches into her kimono and hands him a folded piece of silk. He opens it to reveal a purple flag bearing a black moon trimmed with gold. Gorobe has earned one of the 2 flags he needs to undertake the final test to become Grand Master, but there is still time for you to earn 2 for yourself as you journey across the island. As a group, you hurry out of Singing Wind's grounds and return to where the palanquin bearers and 2 samurai await. Singing Wind says you are welcome to rest overnight on her ship in the harbour. Daon and Gorobe change back out of their palanquin bearer clothes and into their monk's habits. Daon advises he needs no rest, bows, and leaves at once. Aiko changes from her ninja suit to the straw hat and golden robes of a priestess of Eo, Prince of Peace and Wail. Then, with a smile to you all, she disappears into the night. Gorobe wishes you luck and says he will rest overnight in Lemne before considering his next move, as his chest wound is not fully healed. You change into the robes of a simple traveller and ponder your next move. Suma and Nara are closer, but also closer to your competitors too. You still need 2 flags before you must race west to complete your journey within the 5-day limit. We could leave Lemne along the northern road to the castle at Suma, leave Lemne along the southern road to the ancient city of Nara, where one of our competitors already has a head start, try to avoid further competition and leave Lemne cross-country, heading west for Takahiri and the disreputable city of Bridges, or Nasaka, the capital city. Well, in theory, if we take this road, if we can arrive in Takahiri before our companion who went south to Nara, or at around a similar time, and then up to Nasaka, I think Suma is probably our best bet. But maybe this is a good time to end the episode and see how things go next time. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next one. I'll say goodbye for now and start thinking up an intro for this book. See you all soon, and remember, we're all ninjas, even if we fail this initial training session. Bye for now, everybody.